Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Anovella. Today is Friday and that means a deep dive. And the book I've chosen today is Solenoid by Mircea Cartarescu, a Romanian author, I believe. Yeah, he wrote this book about 10 years ago, but only now it has been translated in English and into Dutch. And what a book it is. Let's go. I have lice again. It doesn't surprise me anymore, it doesn't disgust me, it just itches. I find nits constantly. I pull them off in the bathroom when I comb my hair. Little ivory eggs, glistening darkly against the porcelain around the faucet. What is the story about? Well, that's not so easy to say because it's like asking someone, what is your life about? You can't really answer that question either. And the same goes for this book. But I'll give it a try. So the story is about a teacher who lives in Bucharest, Romania. And it's during the time of Ceausescu. He teaches to children, middle grade, I believe, but he doesn't do it with a passion. When he comes home in his rundown house, he can escape in his basement because there is a solenoid and a dentist chair. And when he pushes the button, all the walls around him disappear. That's more or less the main premise of the story. The halls seem to have no end, even though the school is fairly small. You are constantly turning at right angles, constantly going up or down stairs that haven't been properly washed. You pass bathrooms with their doors wide open. You pass the nurse. I have been wandering through this mirage for 3 years, and I have yet to understand its layout. Who is the protagonist of this story? Well, he hasn't got a name. We think that he is telling the story of his twin brother who didn't survive birth. And at the beginning of the story, he had to make a choice. He wanted to be an author, but his first attempt wasn't taken seriously. And he could have gone back to write, but he didn't. He chose to be a teacher. Now, teaching isn't his thing. He has way too much imagination. He's thoroughly unhappy at the school. He gets lost all the time. He wanders through the school and he never finds his way. The kids are like white faces. He doesn't know their names. He hardly knows his colleagues, except for one. There's a woman that he really likes and slowly he falls in love with her. But that's about it. He is vulnerable. He is very hypochondriac. He is scared. He is scared of being alone and being abandoned. He is also somebody who can look at the world with a wondrous eye. He is a dreamer, he is a philosopher, and maybe he doesn't write, but he writes. Maybe he doesn't write with pen and paper, but he writes beautiful sentences in his head. At the same time, he also tries not to lose his mind, and he tries to survive by avoiding the reality. In his mind, he makes the most wondrous travels. He has the most surreal dreams. He is a bizarre, but also a very enigmatic character. Along with the other characters that are all larger than life. They are people that we all know. They have their flaws, they have their insecurities. It is amazing to discover all these characters. The pillow where I cried on so many moon-filled nights was flat, shapeless, lacking the corners and folds mine had at home. Like I said before, when he was born, he was part of a twin, and his twin brother died. And childhood was very difficult for him. His mother wanted him to be a girl, so she dressed him up as a girl with skirts and everything, and the hair and the shoes. He was looking like a girl. And then he became ill, and he was taken away to a sort of sanatorium where he had to live by himself together with other children. Luckily for him, the other kids were nice to him. But the medical tests he had to endure were horrible. He suffered, and he found it absolute torture, especially when he had to go to the dentist. After his childhood, he could go back, and he went to his parents, his mother, although he was loved, but there wasn't much connection. Then he was drafted, he stayed in the military, and then he wanted to become an author. The Fall was not a poem, but the poem. It was that unique object through which nothingness is honored. It was the result of the 10 years of reading literature. For the past decade, I had forgotten to breathe, cough, vomit, sneeze, ejaculate, see, hear, love, laugh, produce white blood cells, protect myself with antibodies. I had forgotten my hair had to grow and my tongue with its papilla had to taste food. After years of reading poetry and all the classics and all the books he could find, he found himself knowledgeable enough to become a writer. And his first work was a poem. Not just a poem, but the poem of poems. He worked on it meticulously, day after day after day. He wrote it, rewrote it, eliminated phrases, added phrases, changed words. He made it absolutely, absolutely perfect. Now, once every blue moon on a Monday, they came together, he and his literary friends, and to talk about literature and to look at each other's work. Now, finally, he was ready to read the poem of all poems. And when he started reading, he kind of choked. And then when it was finished, his friends didn't like it at all. He was extremely humiliated, and he never wrote after that. But in his heart, he was a writer. And although his vocation was becoming a writer, he was so afraid of being rejected and of being ridiculed that he never published anything again. And in a way, this happened to Mircea too. His first novel was a book that was ridiculed. They didn't like it, they didn't get it. And then he had the choice, either stop writing and become a teacher, or carry on and keep on writing. And that's what Mircea has done, and our protagonist hasn't. So in a way, it's a bit his counterpart that he is observing and examining. I went down into basements with electric lights and open doors of rotten wood to find hallways that smelled of earth. with thin gas lines along the walls. On the pipes, affixed to the wall with sloppy foam, beetle pulpi pulsed slowly, a sign that their wings were forming under their husks. Surrealism is a very big part in this book. It is a surrealist book. If you would have asked Dali or Buñuel to write a book, this would be the book that they would have written. So surrealism is a way of coping with the life they had, the Romanians had at that time in the 80s, 70s, under the reign of Ceausescu. Their lives were bleak and horrible. They had no future. But the only way that they could cope with that kind of life was through surrealism and dreaming and seeing everything, as absurd as it is, as something wondrous. And that's why so many dreams are in this book, and so many dream sequences are in this book, because it was a way to cope with life in Romania at the time. It was also for him a way to cope with his profession that he really didn't like. So yeah, surrealism. It is wonderfully done in this book. It works perfectly. Anything unusual on the sensitive map of our bodies makes us unsettled, nervous. We'll do anything to escape a constant discomfort. Sometimes at night, as I'm going to bed, I take off my socks and touch the thickening, horn-like, transparent yellow flesh on the side of my big toe. At the beginning of the story, the first sentence even, are about lice, the lice he has. But when you look beyond that, it's really an adult man who feels like a little boy, who is scared of being abandoned, who is scared of being left alone. He's very insecure. He is, but on the other hand, he has so much imagination, and he looks at everything with a certain wonder, a childish wonder. And also reading this book, and he talks a lot about his lice, about moles, calluses, about pus, about zits, and everything that is possible on a human body. It's like watching an episode of Dr. Pimple Popper. I can't help it, but it really makes me think of Dr. Pimple Popper. In a way, you don't want to hear it and see it and read it, but on the other hand, you're fascinated by it. You don't want it to stop. So it's not for the squeamish. It's quite yucky. He describes his body and the ugliness of his body very, very, very well. It's, I don't think you'll be hungry while you're reading those passages. But a book should be a sign, should tell you to go over there, or stop, or fly, or disembowel yourself. A book should demand an answer. If it doesn't, if your gaze ends on its ingenious, inventive, tender, wise, joyful, and wonderful surface instead of pointing you in direction this book shows, then you have read a literary work, and you have missed, once again, the meaning of any human effort to escape from this world. Novels hold you here. They keep you warm and cozy. They put glittering ribbons on the circus horse. But when, for God's sake, will you read a real book? Solenoid is a book that you will never forget, even if you don't like it. I had to think a couple of days to be sure if I liked it or not. And the conclusion is that I really liked it. There's so many beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sentences, one after the other. And it is a long book. It's, 800, 900 pages. It is, of course, partly autofiction, but he hides it, and it doesn't feel like autofiction. It is a really well-told story. It is philosophical. It makes you think of what is important or not, and it has some magical realism elements in it. While because of the solenoid, he can levitate, and that comes in very handy when they are having sex. So yeah, there are some funny moments in this book, and there are things to be said about this book, and a lot will be said and will be written about this book. I'm pretty sure that this book will become one of the greats of the 21st century. It is maybe one of the best books I've ever read, actually. And this is not a book that comes around every 10 years. No, it is a rarity. It is, yeah, a masterpiece. I hope you like this review. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And tomorrow I will be back. Bye-bye.